Hey guys, welcome to this quarter's Computational Biology with Python course. We're going to do a lot of fun stuff in this course. Um, so let me kind of show you around. Well, let's get out of my sports addiction here. Okay, so we're going to be doing this again on Praxis. Seek input output. You can tell what video I was recording last night. So you're familiar with the Praxis page. I like teaching the second class because you guys are all familiar with everything. So I have so many classes on here. Where's my class? Nope. Yes. So this cool DNA looking one. So we're going to have 4 units. I've recorded a bunch of the videos. I just have to edit them. So the class will start on Monday. Officially, all the stuff will be uploaded. We're going to be doing some more of the computational biology side this quarter as opposed to the learning Python. So you got to walk before you can run, unfortunately. So the last quarter, we did a bunch of stuff with learning Python, learning loops, learning all this stuff. But now we're actually going to be doing stuff with sequences and sequence objects. We're going to be doing some BLAST stuff. We're going to be doing alignments with like Clustal. So you can align protein sequences or nucleotide sequences and kind of tell what's different between them. We're going to be doing some more advanced BLAST stuff if you ever use BLAST on NCBI. Really, we're going to be exploring a lot of the BioPython suite of tools for Python, which is just kind of like a big conglomerate of all the stuff that you really need to manipulate genetic and genomic information and protein information with Python. And then after that, I'm still kind of up in the air. I think I'm 95% positive we're going to do image analysis. We're going to use computer vision for biological purposes, right? So, for example, some of the things that you can do. Of course, we're going to have like not. Oh, so things like identifying. I would say are these cells? I can't tell what these are. But taking images like microscope images or one of the examples I read that I don't see a picture of here is like if you take satellite images of penguin colonies in Antarctica, if you want to be able to automate identifying penguin colonies and counting their numbers from space images, that's something that computer vision can do. Also, somebody recently gave a talk at Tech, and they were talking about using computer vision to identify cancer cells or precancerous cells. There's a lot of different applications for computer vision, and that's one of the big things right now that's kind of a problem, not a problem, but a hang-up in computational biology is that really we're moving so fast with our genomics abilities and our molecular biology abilities where we can produce tons and tons and tons of this genomic data, just sequence everything, but then the hang up becomes, okay, we need to associate genes with function, right, or phenotypes, and automated phenotyping is really lagged behind or isn't as appreciated, I guess, as the genomic stuff. Everyone's excited about sequencing genomes because during the 90s it was such a like, oh my gosh, this is the Human Genome Project was such a huge scientific endeavor. Well, okay, now you know all the genes, but what do they do? So that's where taking tools like machine learning and computer vision come in, because if we can speed up the process or automate the process of discovering phenotypes, then we can associate those with genes. And so there's a big advantage to knowing these techniques and being able to apply them to biological data. So that's the plan for kind of the second half. I don't know how in depth because I haven't done this on Praxis. So if any hangups come out, we might or might not run into those as I make the videos. So, but like I said, these the first part of the course, which will be up by early next week, the first half of the course will be pretty simple, and then we'll jump into the computer vision. If there's something that you're like, I talked to Michael, one of our students in last class, and he was like, I wish we would have done more with these packages, which we're actually going to do in this course. Unfortunately, I think he's graduating. But if there's something that you want to learn, you can always hit me up too and say, hey, I'm kind of interested in prediction algorithms like random forest for predicting biological outcomes, or some other things. I don't think it's really worth doing data visualization in Python because R is just way better at it. So if you want to learn data visualization, I encourage you to take the R courses. And the stats is kind of much better in R as well. I even talked to my PhD advisor and asked him if he ever used R. He says, "Oh, I only use R I really use R for stats because he's a big Python guy." But he said, "But Python's just not as good as stats as R." So, but we could do a couple examples if you were interested in that. Yeah, if there's anything else that jumps out at you of things. Oh, the other thing, we're going to be doing some AI work. And what does that mean? So Praxis has this AI component called Priya. And what Priya does, Priya is a amalgamation, I guess is a good word, of all these different AI engines. So you've probably been hearing about OpenAI's ChatGPT, which is right now real hot in the news, but there's some other companies too. Stability AI, Bing has one called Bard, Google has one called, or no, Bing's is ChatGPT, Google has Bard. But anyways, there's some really cool stuff that you can do with them. For example, I have Priya's going live next week, and so but I have a ChatGPT account, so I will quick show you some of the cool stuff that we are going to be playing with ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, if you're not familiar, is this AI that kind of scours the internet and has these smart algorithms to put things together in almost like a thought, right? So artificial intelligence is pretty cool. So say I wanted, remember at the end of the last course where we did transcription translation, so we can do write a Python script to translate an inputted, spell it right, inputted FASTA file into, this should be transcribe FASTA file into its RNA sequence. And you can see it essentially writes the code for you. Isn't that crazy? So you may have heard professors freaking out about ChatGPT because there's really, no way to be like, oh, did you write this paper? Or did ChatGPT write this paper? But we're going to embrace it, because when I was an undergrad, the big thing, all the professors were like, oh my God, this new Wikipedia thing, that's how old I am, right? This new Wikipedia thing, like, everyone would make a fuss. Don't use Wikipedia. Don't use Wikipedia. Blah, 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 blah. All this stuff about don't use Wikipedia. And they were like fighting the technology. Like that was the way that the world was going. They're like, Wikipedia's entries are all not peer reviewed and blah, blah, blah. Well, anyways, now this is embarrassingly like 20 years later. Professors don't really say that, right? They've just come to accept that that's just part of everyday life now, Wikipedia and the internet and being able to get information from there. And so they adapted and said you need to include sources and yada yada yada. And that's what we're going to do with AI and with ChatGPT and Priya. Is there's no stopping this. It's the genie's out of the bottle. So we're going to use it to our advantage. We're going to learn how to leverage this AI technology to be able to write nice code, rewrite codes, investigate loops. The cool thing about it is, say I use a term that you don't know. What is ClustalW, which is one of the techniques we're going to use. Here we go. It'll just answer it for you. And it's cool because it's going to be built right into the Praxis page. So at the bottom right, you'll have a little picture of that little robot. You click on it, a little pop-up box will appear, and you can ask your question. So you can say, what is ClustalW? What is multiple sequence alignment? What is, how do you write a for loop? Blah, 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 blah. So that's going to be the last, well, maybe the second to last actually, because maybe we'll use it for the computer vision. I'm unsure still, but it's really cool. I'm really fascinated and very excited about the AI stuff. It's essentially the way I see programming going in the future is you're going to need to write pseudocode, right? So you're not going to need to know how to write you'll still need to know how to write, but you'll be doing less writing of the actual lines, and you'll do more writing, like a lot of writing like this. So here's a Python script that takes an inputted FASTA file and transcribes it into an RNA sequence. So adding those components of what you want a script to do, putting it into AI to get your framework, and then annotating it and changing it and understanding it is an important aspect of how coding is going to be in the future. So we're going to embrace that, and we're going to play with that and have fun with that. Okay, and so what else? Last thing that I can think of. Throughout this course, because this is an advanced course, there's going to be a little bit more of less of a copy me exactly vibe to it. So you're going to be responsible for writing your own annotations, and that's going to be part of your final grade for the course. So it doesn't have to be, it has to be so you know what is going on at each step. So if you write a little blurb of something I said, like this step will import a sequence file and it will align it to our reference sequence, and you use a hashtag so it's not part of your actual code, and that's it. But you're gonna have to annotate your code, and that's part of your grade, because we kind of ignored it last course a little bit, just to take the overwhelmingness out, but now it's time for you guys to start doing that. And so I'll make a video kind of showing what I expect for that, but be mindful that you're going to be responsible for your annotations, and that will be part of your final grade. Like I said, they don't have to be extensive, but they have to, be somewhat readable. So one more thing. So Praxis, with this whole AI thing, has moved to Amazon Web Services, and because of that, whenever you log in, it has to physically spin up a computer at these Amazon warehouses that are floating in the ocean or wherever they put these server places, and so it is going to take a little bit longer to load this course, because previously they had an instance constantly running, so it only took 30 seconds or something like that to load up. Now it might take a minute or two, so you're just gonna have to be a little more patient. That's so we can get the AI stuff going and integrated into the course. So yeah, so just be a little patient. What I do usually is hit, load it up, go get a drink, use the restroom, come back, start coding, right? 15 minutes. I'm such a long-winded talker. All right, well, I won't make you wait to watch this load. So that is it for kind of my intro. Read the syllabus. The syllabus is on Moodle here. I'll post a link to the course, to the Praxis Access. Shortly. I'm just waiting for David at Praxis to shoot that along to me. And that's it. So if you have any questions, hit me up, or shoot me a message. Don't shoot me up. And I hope you enjoy the course. I love feedback. Please let me know if you have any feedback. And yeah, let's have fun. All right.